When a fuel pump repair is not just a fuel pump, there's so much more because somebody else has been fooling with it. Let's get started. This is a 2008 Audi S5. It's a fun little car to zip around in, got lots of power, got a V8, it's a fun car, except for when it stalls on you. Customer said sometimes it'll drive fine, then it'll just stall. He was pretty sure that the fuel pump was having an issue, and it was, but this is one of those situations I want to share with you guys and show you today that sometimes it can cause chain reaction domino effects, and sometimes if you've looked at the car or somebody else has been testing things, it adds complications to something that should be fairly straightforward and simple, and it costs a lot of time. Let's take a look around this thing real quick. Here is the front of this S5. Has a nice blacked out grille. It looks kind of like a Lexus, doesn't it, Mrs. Wizard?
It definitely is getting that big grille going on in the front.
Yep, Audis always look really cool. They have really cool styling. This one is not in perfect shape. It's a daily driver, and customer just uses it to drive around, have fun. You see the wheels are kind of dirty, although they're in good shape. They're not gouged up or beat up. It is a two-door. Around to the back, you can see again, S5, VR tuned, Vivid Racing in the back window, which means it's been tuned for a little extra power. And down that side, equally as nice. Let's hop under the hood. Looks like this person lives on a dirt road, Mrs. Wizard.
We do have a few of those around here, but yeah, there's a little bit of dirt caked in here.
We used to live on a dirt road, but not anymore.
No, I'm glad we don't.
In a previous video, we talked about on a Bentley, we showed how Audi coils, the ignition coils, they fail so frequently. And this one is no exception. This one's doing fine, it has no issues at the time, but I can't count how many of these Audi Volkswagen coils I've replaced over and over on multiple different cars. Definitely something to look at. We can see it has dual high pressure fuel pumps. Let's see where low pressure fuel comes in. The cams push a plunger and pump it up to very high pressure and out to the fuel rails. Direct injection. This is very similar to the S6 I had, a 2007, but it had the V10, 5.2 V10, just two more cylinders. Some differences I'm sure, but very, very similar. There is something under the hood we'll show you as soon as we get to that point, but the rest of it we're not going to be working on. It runs just fine. Let's jump right into what we found when we were diving in to figure out why is this thing stalling. So let's open the door and take a look in the back seat. Fuel pumps can be in multiple different locations. Sometimes you have to drop the tank. Some vehicles you can change the fuel pump underneath the car. This is one, very luckily, where you can remove the rear seat and remove this panel. And there is our fuel pump. Not hard to get to. You take this fuel lock ring, unscrew it, put the new pump in, and everything's hunky-dory. We replaced it with just as a brand new pump, and it did kind of fix the problem, but it just led us further down the road to show that there are more problems than what originally thought. Let's head on over to the old fuel pump. So it seems like it never fails, that your car is running fine, fuel pump's doing fine, until one day you fill it full of fuel and you go to start your car and it will not start. It's dead in the water, it won't go anywhere. There's something to that, there's some kind of science to it where the cold fuel out of the ground gets onto the motor, and if it's weak, it's on its way out, it's still kind of running. It's the final nail in the coffin and the pump's done. I'm not sure that that's what happened here, but this one was intermittently failing. Actually, it's in the lock position right now. Sometimes it would run, and then other times it would just stall. Let me show you. I actually put power to it. It doesn't do anything. So here we go. It should spin up and make a buzzing noise. Nothing. One thing I want to show you guys, I'm going to remove these connectors here, or these wires. These two outer pins, the large pins, right here and right here, are the power pins for the pump motor. And you can see there's a brown ring around each pin. This has gotten very hot. Really, really hot. What happens is that sometimes it'll run and then it'll hit the lock position, a bad point in the bearings or stator or whatever, and just lock up. And then it actually blew the fuse on this car. I'm glad it blew the fuse. I don't want to have melted wires, which is really crazy. I'm going to show you something on here it's really crazy the way they designed it. Anyways, the pump is bad. We've proven that it's bad. If I put power to it and knock it with a hammer, it'll actually kind of try to spin. I really don't want to melt it down or cause any trouble, but we put a new pump in. And Danielson actually did the work. He's like, yay, I'm happy. I can go drive this thing, road test it and verify, and I'm done with this car. He didn't even make it outside the shop very far, and it stalled again. This time it wasn't the pump that was the problem. There's so much more to the story. So let's hop back into the back seat. So this is where we get more into electrical testing. I was wondering, so we know it's a new pump. We put power to the pump with a power probe and it spins up every time. It's happy. It wants power and ground and it'll do its job. What we got was a test light, and then here's a brown wire and a green wire. Those are those two pins I just showed you that were getting really hot. That's power and ground for this fuel pump, the actual motor. These tiny wires are just like fuel level sensor or different other electrical things going on, but the main power is these two big wires. And we put a test light in between them, and what we found was it would run, it would be happy, it would, you could go drive it, and all of a sudden it would stall, and what we witnessed was the test light would just go out. That's not a fuel pump problem now. So when the fuel pump died, it caused a chain reaction. It drew so much power. There's more to this fuel pump running than just the pump and some power. I'll show you the next thing in the link. So this is a returnless fuel system. As you can see right here on the fuel pump, it has one port to hook a line to. There's nothing else. There's no return line that goes back into the fuel tank. These can be pulse width modulated. There's actually a control module that operates the fuel pump. It will ramp it up or ramp it down based on how much pressure or volume it needs. That way you save on having to even run a return line. It doesn't need it. So that adds another link to the chain of events, which is a fuel pump control module, which is what this is. It actually has little cooling fins or whatever right there to cool it off. And it has pins and things inside of there, and if you look closely, some of them are silver, some of them are gold. This thing is discolored from extreme heat. This thing got very hot. What Danielson did while he was testing is that he got it to run, got it to do its thing, the engine was running, and I'll show you where this is at here in a minute, which is a really bad design flaw, by the way. This little module would get so hot, you wouldn't even be able to hold it. It's like, aye, that thing is hot. It's supposed to get warm. I imagine it would get warm because it actually has a heat sink on it, but it got so hot you couldn't even hold it. What we found is when this pump locked up, it would pull so much power that it actually took this thing out with it before it blew the fuse. It would work sometimes, sometimes it wouldn't. Whatever is internal inside of here was also starting to fail. Very likely it could have caused a big issue. I want to show you something that's really crazy. I wonder if this could start a fire. So Danielson did a quick check on service manuals online and see where this thing is located. We thought maybe it's up in here or behind the seat or somewhere else. It's located somewhere really crazy. I'll move this little plastic sheet out of the way. You'll see two Allen head screw heads right here that actually underneath the sheet metal is where this thing is located. You can see the cord that goes to it, and that actually operates all the wiring and everything that goes to this. It's located between the sheet metal and also the plastic fuel tank, which is right there. That really kind of bothers me. If this thing was to get so hot or have an electrical issue or a small fire, it could melt through the tank and let air in. Air is the trouble. Fuel vapors inside of a tank will not ignite so long as there's no oxygen present. But as soon as you melt a hole in it, air can get in, and if there's a spark or something, it could blow this thing sky high. I don't know if that's a very good design. Maybe there's some safeties involved in the engineering, but this thing got so hot. It actually kind of discolored the sticker here. It got so hot. So we got those replaced and thought, okay, we got it, we're done. And we weren't. Sometimes repairs go this way where you think, it's simple, this is bad, I'll replace that, I'm done. And I actually get a lot of emails from people who are like, I've replaced this, I've replaced that, it's still not fixed, I'm about to pull my hair out. Luckily I don't have hair, Mrs. Wizard.
You've already taken care of that problem.
Yep. And people will be like, I'm done with this. I don't know what happened here, but let me show you another problem that we had. There's connectors that go to the high pressure fuel system that are pressure sensors. There's one here for the high pressure side, but for the low pressure side, there's one right here. And there was an issue with this. Daniel's son would go drive it, it's driving fine, it's no longer stalling, it's happy, but it'll have a check engine light come on. Now that the system's functioning, it's actually be able to take some data or read some values. It said, there's an issue with low pressure voltage or low pressure system, not enough pressure. We thought, okay, is this pump bad that we just put in? And Danielson got to thinking, he's like, no, I know, I'm going to dig a little deeper. Something strange is going on here. And all he did was remove this connector. That's right here, I just showed you. I'm not going to remove it again because I don't want to disturb it. But the power pin, the 5-volt reference, the pin is actually pushed out of the socket. It was not even giving power to that sensor to operate. So the computer was like, what the heck is going on here? It's these little things like this. Somebody's been in here and had that connector off, pushed it back in, and pushed the socket out. Those are the little things, if you're not an experienced technician, you can, well, it needs this, it needs that, and do the parts scanning. $2,000 later, it still won't run right, or still got a check engine light. You really got to start thinking, I see that the vehicle's been tuned. That means there's probably been people fooling with this thing. And Danielson will hit the nail on the head. He pulled that off, boom, there it was. We repositioned the pin, locked it back in, plugged it back in, the code went away, it's happy. There are no codes with this at all anymore. So the reason of this video is to share with you guys that sometimes your vehicle's in the shop and it should have been a 1 or 2 day repair, and then you call them and there's complications or things going on, and you start to get really mad at the mechanic, like, what is wrong with these people? Why can't they fix my car? Look at this situation here. Is there any way to know that any of this would have happened? We actually had to order a second part, which is this control module, which took another day to get it in, only to find out something's been tampered with under the hood, and it just adds a lot of time. Now we are confident. We have solved the problems. This thing drives beautiful. It's very fast. No warning lights, no check engine light, no codes. The fuel system is back where it's supposed to be again. But it wasn't as simple as what the customer thought. Yeah, a fuel pump, throw it in, we're done. No, we're not. We're not done. This is also the reason when I give an estimate, I run it just a tiny bit high, maybe $100 or $200. Not because I want to take extra money, but because I know this kind of stuff happens. With replacing that module, which wasn't very expensive, we didn't have a whole lot more time into it. We're still within the budget that was approved. So the price did not go up. So everyone's happy. We solved the problem. The bill's not any higher than what they thought it would be. And this thing is back on the road again. Now, there are instances where we get digging in and find out something drastically more expensive is a problem. We'll stop right there. We'll call the customer and say, here's where we're at. What do you want to do? This is what it's going to cost. You want to keep going? Do you want to stop? That's the best way to do it. I've actually heard of customers come in and say, I took it to a shop, they quoted me $1,000, I showed up and the bill was $3,500 and they didn't even call me. Imagine the hostility that can cause. People, I would be angry. It's very easy to just pick up the phone. Hey, this is what we found. But the $200 cushion I gave was able to cover the little bit of extra. There's always a little bit extra, a gasket or a seal or something. You get it apart, and, oh, I need an O-ring or this or that. We're still fine. We're within the budget. There are many times that the bill comes to be cheaper than the estimate because I didn't need the extra little cushion and they don't have to pay for it. But it keeps everybody happy that way. But that's not the case with Hoovie's Range Rover Evoque. It's going to be much more expensive than what he originally planned. You can see there's dirt all over the ground. even after hiring someone to clean it and detail it, which I don't blame the detailer. There's dirt crammed into places that even a pressure washer can't get to. You literally have to take it apart to get to that dirt. It is what it is. So anyways, before this car is out the door, even though this was a simple repair, it wasn't a major tear down, and luckily it's in the back seat or under the back seat to fix it, how quickly it escalated in domino effect into 3 different problems when we thought it was just going to be 1. That happens sometimes. I want to share with you what the steps involved to figure out what happened. If you're curious what kind of tools we use to test this or work on any other cars in the shop, check our Amazon affiliates, link in the description below. We get a small cut if you purchase anything. We really appreciate it. Check out Mrs. Wizard's Ways. She's got really good videos going on there, a lot of really cool stuff. There's a link in the description for that as well. And make sure to hit the subscribe button here because we have many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.